Hello, everybody, and welcome in once again for another NFL Football Sunday, Jeffrey. And of course, we are here again with the Lions playing another game today, taking on the Tennessee Titans. But Jeffrey, before we jump into the game, how are you feeling? How you doing this Sunday morning?
Doing pretty good. Unfortunately, due to the seasonal allergies, I'm a little stuffed up, but overall doing good. It's a bit chilly out there. Definitely some sweater season. Got some nice comfy sweatshirt on, ready for this fall weather.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure exactly how it's been by you, but it's been fluctuating, right? It's been in like the 80s, and then it goes down to the 50s, and then we're 80s, 50s. So it definitely not great for the sinuses there
Yeah.
when you got the constant jumps in temperature. Your body just wants consistency,
hmm
and the Michigan weather says no, thank you.
No. Right. But we got some football though. Big football for
We do,
Michigan
we
this
do, we
weekend.
do.
For the state
Yeah,
of
of course.
Michigan.
Yeah, unfortunately, the outcome of the first game that happened yesterday evening for us Spartan fans, probably not what we wanted to see. At least it was competitive this season, so that feels better. But we're still looking for a victory over those Wolverines, as they did get that 24-17 victory over
Yep.
our Spartans, Jeffrey. But all things considered, uh, wasn't awful. It definitely the start of the game looked good.
Yeah.
But they sort of got that turnover right before half and were able to kick the field goal, and that kind of changed the momentum. And from that moment on, kind of Michigan was kind of took over the game. So
Yeah, I also hear a scrum broke out. So the rivalry is still heated, even though Michigan State has not been doing well the past several years against them. But it's good to see the boys have some fight in them at least.
yeah,
Maybe not
and
throwing
the
punches at people, but maybe do some football instead. But
Michigan's tight end too gave us some more bulletin board material about being a little brother. Little brother gonna do little brother things
yes,
or stick to little brother things. So hopefully it comes back to bite them. But we'll have to see. Have to wait, and they have a very tough schedule up ahead of them. The Wolverines do. They are one of, I think, 3 teams left that have like 4 games against teams that are like in the top 10 or something like that. They have it's rough. They have
okay,
the Hoosiers, Ohio State, Oregon, uh, maybe like one other. Maybe it was 3 games they have. But anyways, Michigan's road. That it was kind of a must win for them to just get bowl eligible potentially, because their schedule is pretty tough moving forward. And of course, they have not had the same success they had last season when they did get that national championship win. But you know what? I mean, you get a natty. I guess you can take the next season off.
yeah,
It's
right.
not really that.
You've won one, so it's kind of like
Yeah,
getting any more is just the icing on the cake.
just greedy at that point in time.
Unless you're the Chiefs, you just keep on rolling
Just
despite
undefeated
everything.
still, and they just do not want to give it up. And of course, they are playing the Raiders today, so
Okay.
probably unlikely that they lose this week. But I guess it's a division rivalry, so that may help. That might spur
You don't
them
think
on. But
the trade buzz with Max Crosby appears to be dying down, although I do not believe what any of the reports say until the deadline's over.
yeah,
Um,
we will certainly revisit that topic,
yeah,
because there's a couple of guys out there who that are supposed to be off the market now, and we'll see if you find those that roaring or boring here in just a little
yeah,
bit, Jeffrey. But as we now shift our sights to this matchup with the Tennessee Titans here, the Lions, of course, are leading the NFC North. They're at 5-1, and there's the completely different story for the Tennessee Titans. They are 1-5. So if you just look at the records on the surface, looks like a game where the Lions should be significantly favored. It shouldn't be an issue. But despite the 1-5 record, the Titans defense is something to be worried about here. And I can see we have a guest working his way in
oh boy,
to the
here he
Lions
is
lose
in
by
the person.
heard it here today.
the Lions lose by 10. I mean,
What?
I'm okay with that. He keeps saying the Lions are going to lose, and they just keep winning. So it's good. I like the predictions.
You got to work. You got to work on that security in your studio, man. You're just having like random homeless people come in and just yell into your mic.
It's a problem. We'll have to set up that Patreon so we can get some enhanced security in here. But Jeffrey, a win here for the Lions would lift them up to 6-1 on the season, which is something that is very rare for the Lions organization. It would be their first 6-1 start since 1956, and only the fifth time uh, winning at least 6 of their first 7 games in their 90 years existence. So, this would be big for the Lions to get a win here, and improve to 6-1. But certainly, you have my dad there, of course, predicting the 10-point loss to the Titans. I did say earlier this week, and I'll say it again, that this I am worried I don't think they're gonna lose the game, but it certainly does kinda feel like a trap game. You just beat the Minnesota Vikings, you have JMO out now. Could there be that little bit of a hangover from a big win against the division rival to now you're playing the lowly Titans who have their backup quarterback likely in, who also traded away a couple pieces from their team. Is this a game where the Lions could get caught overlooking their opponent? Not really sure, but, what are your thoughts there, Jeff? Do you think
I think
you'll
that
be locked in?
I think I'm more confident than you. I think the things that you stated are the reason why we should feel good about us rolling here. Going to your second quarterback, although I do think Mason Rudolph is a bit better than Will Levis in many regards. You're dealing with a team who's they're clearly sellers right now. They sign away some a key veteran on offense, and they're using this year to kind of judge, see if Will Levis is the answer. Or do they need to use their top draft pick here for a new quarterback? So I just think we're too good, to be honest. And I don't know if that's coming off as too arrogant. Maybe that does make this more of a trap game. But I think we just we just match up too well against them. I think we'll be good.
Yeah, and certainly I think, definitely another big opportunity, and I've been a big, proponent of the fact that the thing about the Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell era that has set this Lions franchise apart from teams of the past is their ability to capitalize on opportunities. So, again, it could be the first time since 1956 we start 6-1. Huge opportunity. Of course, the Vikings also lost on Thursday Night Football, to the Rams, so just a chance here to get a game up on them, in addition to the game we already have on them from beating them directly. Huge opportunity for the Lions. And I want to welcome Detroit Fan Man here to the stream. Uh, Definitely also, yeah, I know one of the things, and we'll talk about it here in a moment, is things to watch in the game, Jeffrey. But, you know, uh, they looked good in the first week, minus Aiden Hutchinson pressuring the quarterback. Certainly something that we'd like to see them continue here against the Titans. So interesting to see how this new pass rush debut looks as well. And then, of course, another item that we'll talk about is the JMO not suspension. And, of course, that does open the door for that wide receiver room potentially, as Detroit Fanman points out here, an Allen Robinson revival today, Jeffrey.
Okay, yeah. I think we'll see him. We'll see Khalifa Raymond step up. He's been having, I think, a pretty good season. I think overall he's just, he's one of the original draft picks of the first year Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell era. Which we were talking about, kind of that draft class that when we were coming in like pre-show, but he's one of the key dudes who came in at the beginning. So he is clearly, even with blocking, he's getting his reps where it's needed. He's a team first kind of dude. He's just I think we have some a good core here and some great depth, especially here in the wide receiver room.
Absolutely. And so, we obviously know we have a lot of big injuries, obviously losing Hutchinson, Davenport, Barnes to season ending injuries. But the good news, I guess, for the Lions is outside of those major injuries, like the team is relatively healthy. If we look at the injury report today, Christian Mahogany is out again with that illness. I'm not sure exactly what he's got going on, but this is his third week in a row that he's been out. And then Josh Pascal is also out with illness. So, relatively healthy regard outside of that. And then if you look at the Tennessee side of things, Jeffrey, some things that will help us too. We'll talk about here in a moment about that defense and how good they've been. But they are without L'Jarius Sneed, who was looked at as one of the best corners in the league in recent times. He's out of this game. They also, one of the guys that got back in one of the trades they had earlier, Jerome Baker, he's out, won't be playing in this game. Tajay Spears is out. Cedric Gray's out. And then there are and Jalen Duncan, an offensive lineman, is also out in this game. And then questionable Will Levis, unlikely again to play in this game with that grade 2 shoulder sprain. More likely we'll see him week 9 against the New England Patriots. So Mason Rudolph likely to get the start here for the Titans. And then Tavondre Sweat is also questionable. And then cornerback Jarvis Brownlee Jr. also questionable. So you can, comparatively, Detroit has the 2 guys that are out outside of the season-ending injuries. And then you have all of those guys for Tennessee that are on the bubble. So a good position to be for the Lions. Again, of course, we've had some catastrophic injuries, but overall, the team, the players that are able to go, fairly healthy, which is encouraging as we look to continue this run towards the end of the season.
Yeah, hopefully we can kind of keep this overall luck going because Aiden Hutchinson's injury, I think, was just a freak accident. So hopefully we can keep this kind of overall good luck and do an anti San Francisco 49ers and keep this thing rolling.
Absolutely. They're certainly struggling. There's other teams out there too that are just getting just absolutely decimated. So it can be a war of attrition a little bit for these teams as they try to make it the long haul.
Yeah, especially when an offensive lineman goes down, because it's already difficult to get a unit of offensive linemen to be that good, and then you're losing people. People aren't developing. Overall, the amount of talent of offensive linemen has not been as rich, or at least in the same amount of volume as we've had in the past. So it's just been difficult for people to have dominant offensive lines, and it's a good thing we've got one.
Absolutely. And so, Jeffrey, for things to watch in this game, as mentioned, on the surface, you wouldn't necessarily expect it. But the Tennessee Titans are one of the better defenses in the NFL. They currently rank number 1 in total defense, and they're number 3 against the pass. So, despite the dismal 1-5 record, this should be a good test. And it's back-to-back weeks, right? We just beat the Vikings with Brian Flores and that Minnesota defense that has been really good. And now we're going up against the Titans defense that is also playing at a very high level. So the good news is that their offense is probably going to be a struggle bus, but defensively, these Titans are certainly pretty stout. But again, they do have some changes there as well with Ernest Jones being gone now and then L'Jarius Sneed also being out in this game. So there's certainly a tough defense, but certainly opportunities for this Lions team that find success against them, especially with how well they've been playing.
Yeah, they're it's easily the highlight of the Titans team is their defensive unit. It's kept them in games for sure,
Mhm.
and despite the kind of erratic quarterback play we're getting out of them, it's kept them in games. But like you said, there's only so much you can do when the defense is out there for so long, and the Lions know how to have long methodical drives. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they do in kind of like a dogfight. What Dan Campbell always likes to refer to our games as. He's like, even if we win or lose, we just want to make sure the opponent is in a dogfight with us. So,
Yeah, and I think something that'll be interesting too, especially as his play has sort of elevated him into the national spotlight here a little bit, is Jared Goff. His play, dare I say, has been MVP caliber
oh yeah,
of late, Jeffrey. The Lions have more touchdowns, 18, than Jared Goff has thrown interceptions over the last 4 games. Or sorry, incompletions in the last 4 games. He's only thrown 16 incompletions. They have 18 touchdowns through the air. So crazy statistic. And Jared Goff's passer rating has been north of 140 in the last 3 straight games, and he's only the 4th quarterback in NFL history to have a run like that. So, yes, Titans defense is good, but Jared Goff, Ben Johnson, and this offense has been historically good.
oh
So
yeah.
do you
So
think they can continue that here on Sunday?
yeah,
Or today?
he's on an absolute heater. Goff is in the Goffense. He's in the zone right now.
Feeling it, and hopefully he continues to feel it here today against the Titans. And then Jeffrey, as Detroit fan man pointed out, we have the new pass rushers making their debut today. So pressuring the quarterback, I think, is another thing to continue to keep an eye on. You mentioned that some of the trade rumors out there are also kind of dying down. So I think this is another week. This is our second data point, right, to see if the Lions will be able to manufacture a pass rush that'll help them compete for, ideally the NFC North title, the NFC Championship, and then a Super Bowl. in order. But I think this is another game for seeing if they can do that with the talent they have internally, or if they do need to look to augment that with bringing in some players. So it'll be interesting to see how they can generate pressure in this game against the Titans. Is again with the backup QB in there as well. So
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the show, I think I don't believe that any trade rumors have died down
until it's
the
fine,
deadline hits, because it's just a bunch of agents putting out information out there.
it's all misinformation.
Yeah,
It's kind of like the election right now.
yeah,
Everyone's just putting stuff out there,
yep,
and you're not gonna know until it's said and done.
yep.
And then, of course, Jeffrey, we've talked about it. No JMO in this game. I know we've talked about how the depth at the wide receiver position. Then we've seen Tim Patrick, Khalif Raymond, Allen Robinson. There's plenty of room for opportunity for guys to step up in that wide receiver room. But I think also would be interesting to see how if Sam Laporta doesn't get utilized more in this game. He has been kind of Laporta potty so far on this season
Wow.
compared to how well
Ouch.
he was in his. I mean, let's face it, he had a record-breaking rookie year. And so having a sophomore slump after that is probably to be considered, it isn't like a huge surprise. But certainly he's not had anywhere close to that same level of productivity here in season number 2. So with JMO out, potentially an opportunity for him to step up and kind of help fill that void.
Yeah, absolutely. And last year with him, like Jared Goff in this offense likes to attack the middle of the field, and we would put him on like deep out routes or deep in routes, sorry, like into the field, and he would just absolutely eat on those. And he hasn't been necessarily doing that as much. And I think it's part of it is a consequence of all the mouths we have to feed now, as far as like JMO coming on, Amon-Ra St. Brown being the slot merchant that he is, right? He's gonna get a bunch of looks. But yeah, I think it's almost kind of like we have too many things to choose from.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting too. I mean, I'm not an expert at diagnosing film or anything like that, but when you do have so many weapons, teams kind of have to decide what weapons they're going to take away and like who they're going to be like, all right, if you beat us with this person, that's just going to be it, because you just have, we can't cover everyone the way we'd like to. So I
Yeah,
wonder if it's been something where defenses have been trying to take away Sam Laporta from this offense and forcing this Lions team to beat them in other areas, that could
they are.
potentially be into it too. So
Yeah,
if that's what they've been doing, they have been successful in taking him away, and then the Lions have been successful in finding success elsewhere.
yes.
So it's
Yeah. I
double-edged
also
blade.
I have I think what one thing to watch also. I'm curious to see who of our two running backs is going to be kind of the dominant showing today, because for the first part of the season it was the David Montgomery show for sure, I think, as far as like big plays, closing out games, that kind of thing. But past couple of weeks, Jahmyr Gibbs has been the one kind of coming out and showing. So it's just all good things. I mean, like seeing who is going to be able to who do you stop?
Yeah, he was the FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Week last week. So Jahmyr Gibbs certainly a big part of the Lions' success there. Detroit fan man here. So with Isaiah and Alquid in backups today at edge are Houston and Orike or Ukra. I can't pronounce his name.
I know who you're talking about.
Starters. Yeah. Am I missing anyone? Yeah, Josh Pascal is out with illness, so he would be someone else to be on the list, but he's out for this game. And then I know last game it was really the linebackers. You had Malcolm Rodriguez, he got a sack in that game. Jack Campbell got a sack in the game. So it looks like Aaron Glenn will be bringing pressure by blitzing people. At least that's what he did against the Vikings. So in addition to the defensive linemen, I think you have to look at the linebackers and potentially some safety blitzes and things like that, corner blitzes and all that good stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see all the different types of pressure that Aaron Glenn dials up in this one, because it was a sort of team effort to try and replace that pressure that Aiden Hutchinson was getting by himself. It's crazy. He's still like towards the top of the league in pressures and sacks, and he's only played 5 games.
Yeah.
So it's crazy the start he was off to for the Lions. So And then Jeffrey, the last point, we've already talked about it quite a bit here, but just that different personnel that the Titans have in there. Of course, DeAndre Hopkins was traded to the Chiefs. Thank you, Titans, for doing that. That needed to happen. And then Ernest Jones was traded to Seattle, or not to Seattle, to the Rams, and they got back Jerome Baker, I believe, is part of that trade. So swapping linebackers there. Ernest Jones was their second leading tackler on the team. So for you're down your top corner, down your second leading tackler, the Titans defense may not be as stout as they have been. And then, of course, again, Mason Rudolph looking to start today, most likely for Will Levis as he continues to rehab that shoulder. So, you're definitely not going up against the projected starters in a lot of places here for the Titans, Jeffrey.
Yeah, and it just if for me it spells out a game where we're feasting and rolling. I could see another possibly another 40 burger dropped on this team.
Dropping another 40
Oh,
burger could be
no.
spicy.
Oh no.
Could be spicy. And speaking of spicy, Jeffrey, uh, it's time for roaring or boring, my friend. And so the first one here, speaking of all the trade rumors, allegedly Max Crosby, Miles Garrett, and Jeffrey Simmons are reportedly off the trade market.
Mm.
So if you think if in a world where that is true, do you think the Lions make a trade for a pass rusher prior to the deadline if the sort of premier guys aren't available?
Well, I mean, I think that because yeah, who else would be left if these are the premier dudes? Who else would be kind of sellers in this situation? There's nobody good I would take off from the Panthers. There's nobody, you know what I mean?
There's
Like yeah,
Jadavian Clowney. He's
Davian
down
Clowney.
there.
Okay,
He
get a
is
veteran in there.
he's down there.
I don't know if is he with is he with the Panthers?
He is. Yep.
Oh, I mean, I guess that could be another veteran kind of pass rusher guy. I don't know, but it's not one of these marquee dudes. So I'm
There's a
like,
Darius Smith with the Browns. He could be a decent rental, an older guy.
mhm.
And then there's also now this one is probably less likely to happen because he's on the Packers, but there's Preston Smith.
Oh,
Uh, he was
there's
pretty good
no way.
when he played for the Commanders, but I doubt the Packers are going to be like, oh yeah, let's help out the Lions
Yeah,
and
right.
give them this guy, even though we're not necessarily using him. Just craziness.
Yeah, so for me, I think if these I think we make a swing at a marquee guy, but if not, I'm gonna call this boring. I think we kind of stick with what we have. We use this week as another data point to see how the pass rush goes with our new kind of look here, and we kind of go from there unless one of these marquee dudes becomes available for the right price.
I think I'm in. I think I'm in a similar boat because I think if you're going to make a move, unless it's like something where you're swapping like a conditional pick, and that conditional pick is like a sixth or a seventh, so you're not like really, it's essentially just like we're just sending this guy to you for free. Like if that's the case, sure, like that's fine. That I'll do that. But like I think it's unlikely that the Lions invest heavily in a trade unless it is a player that is going to be like a Max Crosby or Miles Garrett, someone where they're going to get not only value out of him this season, but also at least another season as they look to continue to push in the Super Bowl window that the Lions have. So.
Yeah.
And then Jeffrey, we were both of similar minds here with this next one.
Yes.
But is it roaring or boring that teams are cursed after playing the Detroit Lions? Opponents are now 0-5 after playing the Lions the previous week.
Yeah, it's and over the past 10 games, 2-8. I don't know if it's necessarily a curse, but I think it is a hangover effect here of kind of having to play such a physical team that we are. I mean, they asked Dan Campbell about this very stat this past week, and he's like, I think I mentioned this quote before earlier in the show. He's like, regardless of what we win or lose, we want to make sure the other team is in a dogfight to get it out of us the whole time, right? They really have to play us the entire time to beat us. And even if we lose, you're going to feel it because of how physical they are. And, they show that with their willingness to run block, their willingness to just go out and have lead blocking for all these other guys. They're hard hitting on defense. So, after you have David Montgomery kind of bowling into you for 4 quarters and you go, you only got a week to rest off of that, that has a big hangover. And I absolutely think it's kind of a beast having to play us.
And the poor Vikings, they had a short week before they had to go take on
Yeah.
Matt Stafford and the Rams. And then, they were probably thinking, hey, it won't be so bad. The Rams don't have Cooper Kupp. They haven't had Puka Nakua. And then both of them check into that game. And people were thinking that Matt Stafford was having a down year. And then instantly when talks went back to him being the second best quarterback in the league to Patrick Mahomes skill-wise. So it's just one of those things where,
and I like man for years. He's rolling back the clock, man. He can't be stopped.
Yeah, and I like Detroit fan man here. The Honolulu flu strikes again.
Yes.
He's roaring on this one. The question is how it affects the Cowboys now after their bye week.
Not only did we break them physically, but I think we broke their psyche too.
Well, it's funny that he brings that up because our next roaring or boring question of and I guess which one are you roaring for and which one's boring, but which team needs a win more this week, Jeffrey? Is it the Cowboys or is it the 49ers? Of course, these two teams are squaring off against each other, but which team is more desperate for a win here?
I think from top to bottom, from obviously both from their record standpoint, but from needing to win for like the morale and or just vibes of the team, I think it's got to be Dallas. I mean, yes, San Francisco is going through a big injury rash, but it sucks. But they almost are used to it at this point, right? They are able to kind of pick dudes who kind of step up, who are not the main guys. Debo's expected to come back this week, but I think the Cowboys have some bigger underlying problems that I think a win would do a lot to kind of help them kind of nurse their poor start to the season this year.
And Ed's chiming in here. He's going with the 49ers. Still a chance with that team to make the playoffs. So it's interesting. I think right now you have the Commanders that are kind of running away with the NFC East. So they did lose last week, which helps them out. But the Cowboys certainly, I mean, the answer is both. Both really need to get the win. I guess the question is who is actually going to be able to get it. You gave Dak and CeeDee Lamb all this money, and that was like the only money you spent in the off season as the Cowboys. So, I mean, I feel like the situation is more dire in Dallas than it is in San Francisco, just because I think Kyle Shanahan is seen as being pretty firm in his position with the 49ers. I think even if they have a down year this year, like if they for some reason were to miss the playoffs, like people would expect them to bounce back next year. Whereas with the Cowboys, if they have a down year and don't make the playoffs, Mike McCarthy's going to be gone. I don't know if there's necessarily that thought that they instantly bounce back into being a playoff contender. So
Jared is talking in the in radio interviews, yelling at radio hosts. Man, this is not good over there.
Yeah, things aren't great in Dallas. So I think it's more important for the Cowboys to get a win. But at the same time, like for San Francisco for this season, if you're looking at just this season for both teams, I think it's pretty even. But if you just look at the overall situation with the Cowboys, I think they take the edge just because of how bad it is over there. And it's not good. Not good. Dumpster fire, as Ed points out there in Dallas.
Dumpster fire, Dallas. I love it.
It's accurate. Very accurate. All right, Jeffrey. The next boring or roaring for you here revolves around Jameis Winston and the Cleveland Browns. Is it roaring or boring that he gives them their best QB performance of the season?
Oh, absolutely. He's willing to throw the ball more than like 3 yards down the field compared to Deshaun Watson. So automatic yes. He's going to he's going to be famous Jameis, man. This is the man who threw 30 touchdowns and 30 picks in a season. He's going to be slinging it. He's willing to sling it. That automatically is just going to stretch out their offense, which has been just abysmal, right? Like they weren't like going
very anemic.
Yes, they weren't going deep at all. At least, the very least, he's going to give them some juice because, like, for like some of the plays, he looks like Brett Favre. Like he looks absolutely nuts, like making some of these throws he makes. But then other times, it's like it's going right to the other team. So yes, you add a lot more volatility, but he's a better thrower of the football at this point than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and as good as Baltimore's defense has been, they are giving up the third most points to QBs in as far as fantasy football numbers go. So, and of course, Jameis Winston might not be may not be the best quarterback overall, like in actual football, but as far as fantasy numbers go, the man can produce. So
Yes.
his last starting season, which was 2019, he finished as the QB number 3. So he can put up fantasy points. So
Yes.
gonna be gonna be interesting to see how things go there. And yeah, Ed makes a very much a Brett Favre type style where he slings it and doesn't care. He Also what Jordan Love is currently doing for the Packers. Just throw
Yeah,
that thing up.
like some of the throws look like just like Patrick Mahomes, Brett Favre. Like, how the hell did he do that? Like, that is some arm talent. And others, he's like Will Levis.
You
You know
just
what I'm
threw in a triple coverage. Why'd
Yeah.
you do that? I thought I could make it, man. I thought I could make it. Remember the game 500? Yeah, it at times can feel
Yes.
like 500. It's accurate, very accurate. And then Jeffrey, our last roaring or boring here, sticking with QB news. Bryce Young is getting the start under center for the Panthers today. Is it roaring or boring to say that he will finish the season as the Panthers starting QB?
But I gotta say, boring. I think as soon as Dalton can come back, he's going to come back. He's going in against Denver's defense, which like welcome back, Bryce. Here you go.
Yeah, that's of all the weeks.
Yeah,
I mean, it's weird that Andy Dalton is out because of a car
in a
accident,
car
but it
accident,
just
right?
happens to get a car accident the week that
Yeah,
I'm supposed to go up against the Denver Broncos defense.
I just
Suspicious.
like to me, I don't know like what sitting for the past 3 weeks really would have improved where he came into based on what we saw at the beginning of the season. To be honest with you, right? Yeah, he was. I mean, they made a bunch of these like I don't know these fairly like I don't know these comments about him doing all the right things and oh yeah he was great on the practice squad yesterday, he was really doing good as our scout quarterback, and it's like okay, but like is he improving actually as like the actual quarterback? I don't think so.
I was watching another podcast and they had suggested that the solution for the Panthers was to go bring in Navy's head coach and draft more running backs, keep Bryce Young as their quarterback, and just run the triple option. That would just bring it to the NFL. Hasn't been seen. They
I
wouldn't know what to
mean,
do with it. Triple option is the way to salvage his NFL career, is what they
I
were
mean,
suggesting.
if you're going for those top draft picks, you might as well make it interesting. Just do it. Let's see what happens. And if it works out, it works out. And you were a genius. The tank commander is now the triple option commander with Bryce Young.
Could be spicy. All right, Jeffrey. That's our roaring or boring for this week, but now we're moving into our locks of the week here, Jeffrey, and an update on the stats. Jeffrey, I'm starting to take a little bit of a commanding lead at 5-1 here.
Yep. Not been doing good with my picks. Not
You
been
got
doing
3-3, but who do you have this week? Who's your lock?
This week, I am going to hopefully get it back on the winning side of 500. I'm going to go take looking at the Arizona versus Miami game. Miami is actually favored, which I find surprising, by 4 points, although Arizona struggled quite a bit last week and just in general, not where we expected them to be this season. But it's a 4-point game, and I think Miami is just in such a rough shape that I think Arizona should be able to win. I think James Conner has been kind of the focal point of their offense, and I think that's going to continue to do so. And Miami's not showed me that they can really do much on offense. Now they're getting Tua back this week, which
give him that hawk Tua, man.
I don't know. I just don't feel good about it. I think. I'm actually kind of afraid that this man is going to get a concussion on just like a routine play, just based on where he was when he left. I just don't feel good vibes. I think I might be just going off of vibes for this because I'm desperate to get a win here, but I got to go with Arizona. I think Arizona is going to pull this one out.
Locking in the Cardinals here to get the win over Miami. Well, for my lock of the week here, Jeffrey, I decided to add insult to injury. And you had picked against Seattle last week, and it came back to haunt you. I have decided that I am going to pick against the Seahawks because you have Buffalo traveling out to Seattle this today, and Buffalo is or Seattle is or no Buffalo is favored in this game. They're the -3, but I'm going with Buffalo in this game to get the win on the road in Seattle against the 12th man and the Seahawks. And just to add that little extra prodding there as I hopefully improve to 6-1 with my lock of the week.
Seattle's spooky though, man. They don't play normal games.
They are spooky. They're very spooky, but I'm hoping Amari Cooper continues to look good. And also maybe we see Keon Coleman make a play or two there for the Sparties. Of course, Kenneth Walker's also running for the Seahawks, and he definitely carried that Mel Tucker MSU team. So, but I like Buffalo in this game. Josh Allen has been playing well. Ed likes it as well, which makes me feel even better about the pick. So I'm locking in, Buffalo here to hopefully improve me to 6-1 in locks of the week, Jeffrey.
Yeah, Josh Allen's also the only starting quarterback with the minimum amount of starts to count this stat, but with no interceptions. So he's having a great start this season throwing the ball.
Off to a hot start there. And we're also both off to a hot start when it comes to picking Lions games. Of course, we've been mostly picking Detroit, so that has helped. I'm sitting at 5-1 because I've only picked Detroit. And
I tried to hedge my bet 1 week. Yeah,
you tried to big brain it. You tried to pick the game where we would be different, and unfortunately, it didn't pay off here. But despite my reservations about this being a potential trap game, Jeffrey, it doesn't change the fact I'm going with Detroit because, again, I think Detroit should win the game. I do have concerns about it. But when you just look at the fact of all, it's Mason Rudolph, the changes that they've had, it's on the road in Ford Field. Like, there's so many factors that just seem to ultimately say this is an opportunity for the Lions to do something they've only done 5 times in their history. The first time since 1956. I'm predicting the Lions to get the win here and go to 6-1 on the season.
Okay, I'm going to keep with the confidence that I have kept all week. I think, and I'm not going to try to big brain this at all. I'm going with what looks right from my gut, and I think Detroit. For me, I think Detroit's going to roll. Ed, though, thinking it's going to be a close game, and the Lions are a bit of a hibernation state, a little bit of a hangover from last big division win last week. But I could see both ways happening. But I think I got to give it to a big Lions win, covering the spread handsomely. Hopefully a 10 or more point win.
Yeah, of course, my father predicting the 10-point Titans victory for those who missed it earlier as he walked into frame and made his prediction there. And you heard it there first, as he said from him, 10 points for the Titans to win over the Lions. But thankfully, he's making that prediction, which makes me even feel better about the prediction with going with Detroit, because oftentimes his predictions do not come true. All right, everyone. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in on this Sunday to our pregame episode. Of course, Jeffrey, as mentioned earlier, I'm actually heading down to Ford Field to see this game live and in person. So
boots on the ground, everybody.
Get to see it and see what it looks like, and looking forward to that. But I want to thank everybody who has tuned in with us and been engaging with the show today. We're coming to you live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I know we're getting closer to 100 subscribers. We still have a ways to go, but if we could hit 100 subscribers on YouTube before the end of the season, fantastic. So I want to thank everybody for their support. And again, if you do enjoy the show and want to help the channel grow, the best way is on your channel or on the channel of your choosing. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. We appreciate your continued support.
Yes, thanks everybody. Really appreciate you tuning in.
And there's also there's the podcast on Spotify. So if you do prefer to listen to the show instead of watching it, you can do that. And then we do have clips and things like that on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that good stuff. So however you like to consume your Lions Grid, you can do so. We have many options for you and sort of an expanded selection here in season 8, Jeffrey. Hard to believe we're in week 8 of season 8.
Yeah,
It's flying by this NFL season.
it has been. It has been. And I feel like it always ends up being like that. I like this time of year just because football's all around and it's my favorite sport. So it's good end caps to the weeks. And next thing you know, it's almost November. Friday's the first week or
Friday's
first
the
day of
first.
November.
Yep.
It's nuts.
Crazy. Ooh. All right, everyone. Well, Jeffrey, there's one thing we like to do to end the show, especially on the day of the game, and that's a go Lions. So without further
Yeah.
ado,
Go
go
Lions.
Lions. All
Bye,
right,
everybody.
everyone. We'll catch you on Tuesday. Bye bye.